This is real HOA stories. She brought a ruler and a grudge. I want you to picture this. It is 6:45 on a Thursday morning in Montreal, and I am standing in my driveway with a shovel in one hand and a phone in the other, watching Betty Taylor march across the street toward me with a clipboard, a measuring tape, and the kind of rage that only comes from someone who has been waiting for this moment since before sunrise. "You are in violation of Covenant Section 12-4-B, she shouts before she even reaches my property line. Your sidewalk was not cleared by 6 a.m. as required during snow emergency periods. That is a $200 fine, and if you do not comply immediately, we will escalate to a lien." I moved to Montreal 6 months ago for a park ranger job that values quiet and rules that make sense. Frostbite Flats Estates Association is a master-planned community where the board runs snow patrol after every storm. And Betty Taylor, the vendor coordinator, is the kind of person who threatens contractors and service techs for fun. What is at stake for me is not just money. I am in a custody and visitation routine, and the HOA keeps targeting my schedule and guests. The first sign of trouble came 3 weeks ago when I took down my holiday lights 2 days late because of ice on the roof, and Betty cited me anyway with a $100 fine and a lecture about how the covenants do not care about safety. Now she is standing at the edge of my driveway, unspooling that measuring tape like it is a weapon. "Your path is only 32 inches wide," she says, snapping the tape taut. "Covenant requires 36 inches minimum during snow events. That is another $100 fine for non-compliant clearance width." I take a breath. "Betty, I cleared this at 5:30 this morning. The plow came through at 5:50 and pushed snow back onto the sidewalk. I was about to go back out and touch it up before I leave for work." She smiles, and it is the smile of someone who has been rehearsing this moment. "You signed the covenants, now you live the covenants. The rule says 6 a.m. It is now 6:47. You are in violation." I feel my jaw tighten, but I keep my voice level. I have dealt with worse in the field, but this is different. This is my home, and she is treating it like a battleground. "Fine," I say, "write it up. But I want a copy of the Winter Patrol log sheet that shows when you measured and when the plow came through." Her smile falters for just a second, and she clutches the clipboard a little tighter. "That is internal documentation. You do not get access to that." I let her think she has won that round, but I am already recording this on my phone, tucked in my coat pocket with the camera lens peeking out through the backpack strap. I learned a long time ago that if you are going to fight someone who weaponizes paperwork, you need to document everything. She writes the citation on a pre-printed form and hands it to me. "You have 72 hours to pay," she says. "After that, we add a $50 late fee and begin lien proceedings. You will pay the fee, then you will pay the fee about the fee." I take the paper and glance at it. The violation time is listed as 6:15 a.m., which is a lie. I have a doorbell camera that timestamps everything, and it clearly shows me shoveling at 5:30 and the plow coming through at 5:50. But I do not say that yet. I let her think I am cornered, because my trump card needs her to overreach. She turns to leave, and I call after her. "Betty, just so I am clear, what is the exact definition of a snow emergency period?" She stops and turns back, annoyed. "Any accumulation over 2 inches within a 24-hour period. It is in the handbook." "And who declares it?" "The board. We sent an email at 11 p.m. last night." I nod slowly. "Got it. Thanks." She walks away, and I stand there in the cold, watching her cross back to her house. My neighbor, an older guy named Ed, who is shoveling his own driveway, pauses mid-scoop to stare. He shakes his head and goes back to shoveling. I head inside, peel off my parka, and sit down at my kitchen table with a steaming coffee cup in my gloved hand. I pull up the HOA email on my phone. It was sent at 11:03 p.m., which gives residents 7 hours to clear their sidewalks before the 6 a.m. deadline. That is tight, but it is technically within the rules. What is not within the rules is Betty measuring my sidewalk at 6:15 and claiming I was non-compliant when the plow did not even finish its route until 6 a.m. I text my buddy Marcus, who is a calm homeowner in the neighborhood and has been dealing with Betty for 3 years. He brings the actual printed covenants to every meeting and reads them out loud when the board tries to bend the rules. Marcus, I got hit with 2 fines this morning: snow clearance timing and width. Can you pull your copy of the covenants and check section 12-4-B for me? He replies within 5 minutes. On it. Meet me at the coffee shop at noon. I spend the rest of the morning at work, but my mind is stuck on the measuring tape, the clipboard, and the way Betty clutched that winter patrol log sheet when I asked for it. She is hiding something, and I am going to find out what. At noon, I meet Marcus at a small cafe near the neighborhood entrance. He is already there with a binder, 2 coffee cups, and a highlighter. Okay, he says, flipping to the section. Covenant 12-4-B says sidewalks must be cleared to a minimum width of 36 inches within 6 hours of the end of a snow event, not the start. The snow event is defined as the time accumulation stops, not when it begins. I lean forward, so if it snowed until 4 a.m., I would have until 10 a.m. to clear it? Exactly. And the board email says the snow stopped at 3:45 a.m., which means your deadline was 9:45 a.m., not 6 a.m. I feel a grin spreading across my face. She lied about the deadline. Marcus nods. And the width measurement has to be taken at the narrowest point of your cleared path, not at a spot where the plow pushed snow back. If the plow dumps snow on your sidewalk after you clear it, that is not your responsibility until the next clearing cycle. So both fines are bogus. Both fines are bogus, he confirms. But here is the thing. Betty has been doing this to people all winter. She picks a target, hits them with a bunch of violations, and then the HOA management company backs her up because no one fights it. Most people just pay the fines and move on. I take a sip of coffee. I am not most people. Marcus grins. I know. That is why I brought these. He slides a stack of printed emails across the table. These are from last year. Betty sent these to 3 different contractors, threatening to blacklist them if they did not prioritize her driveway over everyone else in the neighborhood during snow emergencies. One of the contractors filed a complaint with the board, and it got buried. I flip through the emails. They are damning. Betty is not just enforcing rules, she is using her position to get special treatment and punish anyone who does not comply. Can I make copies of these? I ask. Already done, Marcus says, pulling another set from his bag. I figured you would need them. I leave the cafe with a plan forming in my head. Betty thinks she can bury me under fines and paperwork, but she does not know I have been building a file since the holiday lights incident. Every email, every notice, every interaction is documented, and now I have proof that she is abusing her role. That afternoon, I get a call from the HOA management company. It is a woman named Claire who handles compliance. Mr. Hayes, she says, her voice clipped and professional. We have received your citation for snow clearance violations. The total is $300, due within 72 hours. If you would like to dispute the citation, you can request a hearing, but the fees remain in effect until the board rules on your case. I want a hearing, I say immediately. And I want a copy of the Winter Patrol log sheet that shows when Betty Taylor measured my sidewalk this morning. There is a pause. That is an internal document. We do not release those to homeowners. Then I will file a formal records request under the HOA bylaws, I say. Section 9-2 says homeowners have the right to access any document related to enforcement actions against their property. Another pause, longer this time. I will pass that along to the board. Your hearing is scheduled for next Wednesday at 7 p.m. in the clubhouse. Wednesday is 5 days away, which gives me time to gather more evidence, but it also means the fees are piling up, and if I lose the hearing, I will be on the hook for everything, plus the late fees. I spend the next 2 days digging. I pull my doorbell camera footage and export the time-stamped clips, showing me shoveling at 5:30 a.m. and the plow coming through at 5:50. I screenshot the HOA email that says the snow event ended at 3:45 a.m., which means my real deadline was 9:45 a.m. I print out Marcus's emails showing Betty threatening contractors. And I request copies of every snow clearance citation issued in the neighborhood this winter. The management company drags their feet on the records request, but Marcus comes through again. He has been collecting data for months, and he hands me a spreadsheet with every fine issued since December. There are 43 citations total, and 31 of them were issued by Betty. The next highest enforcer issued 6. This is a pattern, I tell Marcus when we meet again. She is targeting people. Not just people, Marcus says. Look at the addresses. I scan the list, and my stomach drops. 12 of the citations are for properties on my street. 8 of them are for houses where single parents live. 3 of them are for my address. She is going after anyone who does not have time to fight back, I say quietly. Or anyone she thinks will fold, Marcus adds. But you are not going to fold. No, I say. I am not. If you are enjoying this story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more HOA drama. The hearing is scheduled for Wednesday, but on Monday night, I get another notice. This one is not from Betty. It is from the board president, a man named Rick, who usually stays out of Betty's enforcement crusades. The notice says the hearing has been rescheduled to Thursday at 7 p.m. due to an incoming winter storm. Travel is expected to be dangerous Wednesday evening, so the board is moving all meetings back 24 hours. I text Marcus, "Did you get the reschedule notice?" "Yeah," he replies. "Convenient timing. Betty probably pushed for it because she knows you are ready." Or because she wants to bury this under another snow event, I say. If it snows Wednesday night, she can hit me with more violations Thursday morning and stack them onto the hearing. Marcus sends back a thumbs up emoji. Document everything. I will be there Thursday. Wednesday night, the storm hits. It is not as bad as predicted, but we get about 4 inches of heavy wet snow that the plows struggle to move. I set my alarm for 4:30 a.m. and go out to shovel before the 6 a.m. deadline that Betty invented. I clear my sidewalk to 40 inches wide, measure it with my own tape, and take photos with timestamps. Then I salt the path and go back inside to wait. At 5:50 a.m., the plow comes through and dumps a ridge of snow across the end of my driveway and onto the sidewalk. I am back outside within 5 minutes, clearing it again. I take more photos, more measurements, and more timestamps. At 6:15 a.m., Betty appears. She has a flashlight this time, even though the sun is starting to rise. She walks up to my property line and starts measuring. 34 inches, she announces loudly. You are in violation again. I hold up my phone and show her the photo I took 10 minutes ago. It was 40 inches before the plow came through. You are measuring the snow the plow dumped, not the path I cleared. She glares at me. The covenant does not account for plow damage. You are responsible for maintaining clearance at all times. Show me where it says that, I say. She does not answer. She just writes another citation and hands it to me. $200. Due by Sunday. I take the paper and walk back inside without another word. I let her think she has won again. Thursday morning, I get an email from Claire at the management company. It includes a PDF of the winter patrol log sheet, but half the entries are redacted. The times are blacked out, and the notes column is completely blank. The only thing visible is the date, the address, and Betty's initials. This is not a full log, I reply. I need the unredacted version. Claire responds within an hour. The board has determined that the full log contains proprietary enforcement methods and cannot be released. I forward the email to Marcus with a note. They are hiding something big. He replies immediately. I have a copy of last year's log. It is not redacted. I will bring it Thursday. Thursday at 6 p.m., I load my evidence into a folder and drive to the clubhouse. The parking lot is nearly empty, which is not surprising given the weather. Marcus is already there, sitting in his truck with the heater running. Ready? He asks when I walk up. Ready, I say. We head inside together. The clubhouse is a small building with a meeting room, a kitchenette, and a storage closet. The board is set up at a long table at the front of the room. Rick, the board president, is in the center. Betty is to his right, and two other board members I do not recognize are on the left. There is a microphone on the table in front of Betty, and she has a stack of papers in front of her. Claire, the management company rep, is sitting off to the side with a laptop. Rick clears his throat and starts the meeting. We are here to review the snow clearance citations issued to Mr. Hayes at 83 Wintergreen Lane. Mr. Hayes, you requested this hearing to dispute the violations. You have 10 minutes to present your case. I stand up and walk to the front of the room. I set my folder on a small table and pull out the first document. Thank you, I say. I am disputing 3 citations issued by Betty Taylor on January 9th, January 11th, and January 16th. All 3 citations claim I violated Covenant 12-4-B by failing to clear my sidewalk to the required width within the required time. I have evidence that proves all 3 citations are incorrect. Betty leans forward and speaks into the microphone. The covenants are clear. 6 a.m. clearance during snow emergency periods. 36-inch minimum width. You failed both requirements on all 3 dates. I turn to face her. The covenant says 6 hours after the end of a snow event, not 6 a.m. The snow event on January 9th ended at 3:45 a.m., according to the email you sent. That means my deadline was 9:45 a.m. I cleared my sidewalk at 5:30 a.m., which is 4 hours early. Rick looks at Betty. Is that correct? Betty does not answer immediately. She flips through her papers, and I can see her jaw tighten. The board has the authority to set stricter deadlines during emergencies, she says finally. Show me where that authority is written in the covenants, I say. She does not answer. I pull out the next document. This is a screenshot of the HOA email sent at 11:03 p.m. on January 8th. It states that the snow event ended at 3:45 a.m. on January 9th and that homeowners have 6 hours to clear their sidewalks. That is the rule, not 6 a.m. Rick looks at Claire. Can you verify that? Claire types something on her laptop and nods. That is correct. The email matches what Mr. Hayes is saying. Betty slams her hand on the table. The intent of the rule is to ensure safety during morning commutes. If we allow people to wait until 9:45 a.m., the sidewalks will be impassable. The intent does not override the written rule, Marcus says from the back of the room. If the board wants a 6 a.m. deadline, you need to amend the covenants and put it to a vote. Betty glares at him, but Rick holds up a hand. Okay. Noted. Mr. Hayes, what about the width requirement? I pull out my phone and show the photos on the screen. This is my sidewalk at 5:35 a.m. on January 9th, measured at 40 inches wide. This is the same sidewalk at 6:10 a.m. after the plow came through and dumped snow back onto the path. Betty measured it at 6:15 and cited me for 32 inches. The covenant says I am responsible for clearing the path, not for preventing the plow from dumping snow back. Rick looks at Betty again. Did you measure after the plow came through? Betty hesitates. The timing of the plow is irrelevant. The homeowner is responsible for maintaining clearance. No, I say firmly. The covenant specifically says homeowners are responsible for clearing snow that falls on their property. The plow snow is not snow that fell. It is snow that was moved by a municipal vehicle. If you want to fine someone for that, fine the city. One of the other board members, a woman in her 50s, speaks up. I think Mr. Hayes has a point. We cannot hold homeowners responsible for plow damage. Betty turns to her. That is not how we have been enforcing it. Then we have been enforcing it wrong, the woman says. Rick clears his throat. Okay. Let us move to the January 11th citation. Mr. Hayes, do you have evidence for that one? I do, I say. Same issue. Snow event ended at 2:30 a.m., which gave me until 8:30 a.m. I cleared my sidewalk at 6 a.m. Betty cited me at 8:45 and claimed I was late. Betty jumps in. That citation was for inadequate clearance, not timing. No, I say, holding up the citation. It says failure to clear by required time. Right here. I pass the paper to Rick, and he reads it. He looks at Betty. This does say timing. Betty snatches the paper back. Fine. I made a notation error. The issue was the width. The width was 42 inches, I say. I have photos. Betty does not respond. She is staring at the table now, and I can see her hands shaking slightly. Rick looks at Claire. Can we pull the enforcement records for January 11th? Claire types for a moment, then shakes her head. The log entry for that date is incomplete. It does not have a measurement recorded. Betty stands up abruptly. This is ridiculous. I have been doing snow patrol for 3 years, and no one has ever questioned my citations. You are wasting the board's time. Rick holds up a hand. Betty, sit down. We are not done yet. She sits, but she is glaring at me now with the kind of rage that makes me think this is about to get worse before it gets better. I pull out the next document. This is a spreadsheet of every snow clearance citation issued this winter. 31 out of 43 were issued by Betty Taylor. 12 of those were issued to properties on my street. 8 were issued to single-parent households. 3 were issued to my address. Rick takes the spreadsheet and scans it. What is your point? My point is that Betty is targeting specific homeowners with fabricated violations, I say. And I have proof. I pull out the final document. This is an email Betty sent to a landscaping contractor last February. In it, she instructs the contractor to take a photo of my driveway and alter the timestamp to make it look like the snow was not cleared on time. The contractor refused and forwarded the email to me last week. The room goes silent. Rick takes the email and reads it. His face goes pale. Betty, is this real? He asks quietly. She does not answer. She is staring at the table, her hands clenched into fists. Rick looks at Claire. We need to verify this. Claire nods and takes the email. I will contact the contractor. I let the silence sit for a moment, then I say, I have been documenting every interaction with Betty since December. I have doorbell camera footage, time-stamped photos, and payment confirmations proving I was never delinquent on any fees despite the winter fee blast she sent out. I am requesting that all 3 citations be dismissed, and that the board investigate Betty's enforcement practices. Rick nods slowly. Motion to dismiss the citations pending investigation? The woman who spoke earlier raises her hand. I second. Rick looks at the other board members. All in favor? 3 hands go up. Betty does not vote. The citations are dismissed, Rick says. Mr. Hayes, we will follow up with you within 2 weeks. I gather my papers and walk out of the room. Marcus is waiting for me in the parking lot, grinning. That was beautiful, he says. It is not over, I reply. She is going to come after me harder now. I am right. The next morning, I wake up to the sound of a tow truck idling in my driveway. I throw on my parka and run outside. It is barely 5 a.m., and the sky is still dark. The tow truck driver is standing next to my car with a flashlight, and Betty is standing a few feet away, pointing at my rear bumper. This vehicle is parked in violation of Covenant 16-2, she shouts when she sees me. Rear bumper is over the property line by 3 inches. It is getting towed. I walk up to the driver, a young guy who looks like he would rather be anywhere else. Did the HOA give you authorization to tow this car? He pulls out a work order and shows it to me. It has Betty's signature on it, but no board approval stamp. This is not valid, I say. The covenant says towing requires board approval, not just a single board member. Betty steps forward and shines her flashlight directly at my doorbell camera. The board gave me emergency authority, she says. You are obstructing HOA business. If you do not step back, I will call the police. I pull out my phone and start recording. Call them, I say. I would love to explain to the cops why you are trying to tow a legally parked car at 5 a.m. without proper authorization. The driver looks at Betty, then at me, then at the work order. He shakes his head. I am not hooking this car without board approval, he says. Call me back when you have the paperwork. He gets back in the truck and drives away. Betty stands there in the driveway, shaking with rage. This is not over, she hisses. I know, I say. That afternoon, I get a call from Marcus. Dude, you need to see this. He sends me a screenshot of a private HOA board group chat that someone leaked. It is a spreadsheet with a list of addresses and notes next to each one. My address is highlighted in yellow, and the note says, high priority. Increase enforcement until compliance or sale. They have a target list, I say. And you are on it, Marcus replies. This is going to the management company. They are going to freak out when they see this. Send it to me, I say. I am going to need it. That night, I sit down and write a formal demand letter to the HOA management company. I attach the leaked spreadsheet, the contractor email, the falsified work order from the tow truck incident, and the payment confirmations proving I was never delinquent on fees. I demand a full refund of all fines, a written apology, a no-contact directive against Betty, and a written ban on retaliatory winter enforcement with penalties for violations. I send the letter via certified mail and email it to Claire at the management company. 2 days later, I get a response. Claire calls me directly. Mr. Hayes, we have reviewed your letter and the attached documents, she says. The management company is treating this as a serious compliance issue. We are scheduling an emergency board meeting for Monday night. You are invited to attend if you would like to present your case to the full board. I will be there, I say. Monday night comes, and the clubhouse is packed. Word has spread about the leaked spreadsheet, and at least 20 homeowners show up. Marcus is there, and so is Ed, the neighbor who watched Betty cite me that first morning. Rick calls the meeting to order and immediately addresses the room. We are here to discuss allegations of enforcement misconduct by board member Betty Taylor. Mr. Hayes, you have the floor. I stand up and walk to the front. I have already said most of this at the last hearing, so I keep it short. Betty Taylor has been using her position as vendor coordinator to target specific homeowners with fabricated violations, threats, and harassment. I have documented evidence of falsified citations, unauthorized tow attempts, and a leaked target list that proves this was coordinated. I am requesting that the board remove Betty from her position, issue a written reversal of all fines against me, and implement a written ban on retaliatory enforcement. Rick nods and looks at Betty. Betty, do you have a response? She stands up slowly. Her face is red, and her hands are shaking. You people do not understand what it takes to run this neighborhood, she says, her voice rising. I have spent 3 years trying to keep this place livable, and all I get is complaints. You signed the covenants, now you live the covenants. If you do not like it, move. The room goes silent. Even Rick looks uncomfortable. Then, Betty makes her mistake. She pulls a stack of papers from her bag and slams them on the table. These are violation notices I was planning to issue next week, she says. Half of you are in violation of something, and if you do not want to end up like Mr. Hayes, you will start following the rules. Marcus stands up. Betty, that sounds like a threat. It is not a threat, she snaps. It is a promise. You will pay the fee, then you will pay the fee about the fee. The room erupts. At least 5 people start shouting at once. Rick bangs a gavel and calls for order, but it takes a full minute to get everyone to sit down. Rick looks at Betty. That was inappropriate, he says quietly. I am calling for a vote to remove you as vendor coordinator and revoke your enforcement authority. Betty's face goes white. You cannot do that. I can, and I am, Rick says. All in favor? 4 hands go up immediately. Betty is the only one who does not vote. Motion passes, Rick says. Betty, you are removed from enforcement duties effective immediately. You will return all HOA property, including the measuring tape, clipboard, and access to the vendor list, by end of business tomorrow. If you violate this directive, we will pursue legal action. Betty grabs her papers and storms out of the room. The door slams so hard it rattles the walls. Rick turns to me. Mr. Hayes, on behalf of the board, I apologize for what you have been through. We will issue a written reversal of all fines against you and a full refund. We will also draft a no-contact directive and a policy update to prevent this from happening again. I nod. Thank you. Claire stands up. I will have the refund check and the written directives ready by Wednesday. The meeting wraps up, and I walk out into the parking lot with Marcus. He is grinning. You did it, he says. We did it, I correct him. The next day, I get an email from Claire with the settlement terms. Full refund of all fines, a written apology from the board, a no-contact directive against Betty, and a written ban on retaliatory winter enforcement with penalties for violations. The policy update includes a requirement that all enforcement actions be reviewed by the board before citations are issued, and it bans enforcement during active snow events or within 2 hours of plow completion. I sign the settlement and send it back. Wednesday afternoon, I get a check in the mail for $600. It is stapled to a letter on HOA letterhead that says, "The board has reviewed your case and determined that all citations issued against your property were in error. We apologize for the inconvenience and have implemented policy changes to prevent similar issues in the future." It is not a perfect apology, but it is enough. That night, I am sitting in my living room with a coffee cup when I get a text from Ed, the neighbor who watched the whole thing unfold. Just saw Betty loading boxes into her car. Looks like she is moving. I do not reply. I just set my phone down and take a sip of coffee. 2 weeks later, I get another email from Claire. The management company has issued a memo clarifying the snow clearance rule, and it is exactly what I argued at the hearing. 6 hours after the end of a snow event, measured from the time accumulation stops. Homeowners are not responsible for plow damage. Enforcement must be documented with time-stamped photos and cannot be based on estimates. The memo is sent to every homeowner in the neighborhood, and it includes a note at the bottom. This clarification is the result of a recent policy review. The board thanks homeowners for their patience during this process. I forward the memo to Marcus with a note. They did not mention my name, but everyone knows. He replies immediately, "You are a legend." The next morning, I am shoveling my driveway after a light overnight snow when Ed walks over. He is carrying 2 coffee cups. "Figured you could use this," he says, handing me one. "Thanks," I say. We stand there for a minute, watching the sun come up over the snowbanks. "You know," Ed says, "I have lived here for 6 years, and I have never seen anyone take on the board like that and win." I take a sip of coffee. I just got tired of letting her get away with it. "Well, you did more than that," he says. "You changed the rules for everyone. Half the neighborhood was terrified of her, and now they are not." I nod. That is all I wanted. Ed claps me on the shoulder and heads back to his driveway. I finish shoveling and head inside to get ready for work. A month later, the board holds its annual meeting. Rick announces that the management company has updated the enforcement handbook to include all the policy changes from the settlement. He also announces that the winter patrol program is being restructured, and that all enforcement will now require 2-person verification and photographic evidence. Marcus nudges me. "That is because of you," he whispers. I do not say anything. I just listen. At the end of the meeting, Rick opens the floor for nominations for next year's board. Marcus stands up and nominates me for vendor coordinator. I shake my head immediately. No thanks. The room laughs, and Rick moves on. After the meeting, Claire pulls me aside. "I just wanted to say thank you," she says. "That spreadsheet you provided forced the management company to audit the entire enforcement program. We found violations in 3 other neighborhoods. Betty was not the only one." "What happened to them?" I ask. "Let us just say they are not coordinating vendors anymore," she says. I nod. Good. She hands me a business card. "If you ever have issues again, call me directly. You should not have to go through this again." I take the card and slip it into my wallet. Thanks. Spring comes, and the snow melts. The sidewalks are clear, the driveways are dry, and the neighborhood feels different. People are friendlier. There are more block parties. The tension that hung over Frostbite Flats all winter is gone. One Saturday in April, I am out front planting flowers when a moving truck pulls up to Betty's house. I do not go over. I just keep planting. Ed walks over with a grin. Heard she is moving to Florida. Good for her, I say. He laughs. You are not even a little bit smug? I am a little bit smug, I admit. But mostly I am just glad it is over. That afternoon, I get a text from Marcus. Board just posted the final vote count for next year. Rick is staying on as president. The vendor coordinator spot is still open. You sure you do not want it? I am sure, I reply. Fair enough, he says. But if they try to hire another Betty, I am nominating you again. I send back a laughing emoji and go back to planting flowers. A week later, I am sitting on my porch with a coffee when I see a woman walking down the sidewalk with a clipboard. My heart skips for a second, but then I see it is just a canvasser for a local election. She waves and keeps walking. I take a sip of coffee and lean back in my chair. The sun is warm, the air smells like cut grass, and for the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe. That night, I get an email from the board. It is a survey asking homeowners to rate the HOA's performance over the past year. I fill it out honestly. I give them high marks for responsiveness and policy updates, and I leave a note in the comments section. Keep the enforcement rules clear and fair, and make sure no single person has unchecked authority. 2 weeks later, the board sends out a summary of the survey results. The number one request from homeowners is more transparency in enforcement. The number two request is term limits for board members. Rick sends a follow-up email saying the board will discuss both items at the next meeting. I forward the email to Marcus. Progress, I say. Slow progress, he replies. But progress. Summer comes, and the neighborhood is quiet. The pool opens, the kids are out riding bikes, and the HOA is barely visible. No citations, no fines, no drama. It is exactly what it should be. One evening in July, I am grilling in my backyard when Ed walks over with a six-pack. Figured I owed you one, he says. We sit on the porch and watch the sun set over the rooftops. Ed tells me about his daughter's graduation, and I tell him about a hiking trail I found up near the park. You know, Ed says after a while, I was thinking about running for the board next year. Yeah? I say. Yeah, he says. After watching what you went through, I figured someone needs to keep an eye on things. Make sure it does not happen again. I raise my beer. Good luck. He clinks his bottle against mine. Thanks. A year passes, and I am still in the same house. The HOA is still running, but it is different now. The enforcement handbook is online, the board meetings are recorded, and there is a formal complaint process that actually works. Ed got elected to the board, and he brings the same calm, no-nonsense energy to every meeting that he brought to the hearings. I am sitting in my living room one evening when I get a text from Marcus. Just saw the new vendor coordinator list. No one from the old crew made the cut. I reply, good. Fresh start. He sends back a thumbs-up emoji. That night, I think about the measuring tape, the clipboard, the falsified photos, the midnight tow truck, and the way Betty's voice shook when she realized she had overreached. I think about the leaked spreadsheet, the written reversal from management with a real citation, the moment she was removed as meeting chair and lost the microphone control, and the HOA memo clarifying the rule she weaponized. I think about how she quoted minutes that contradicted her own records, and how that one mistake gave me everything I needed to flip the script. And I think about how quiet my street is now, how the neighbors wave when they see me, and how no one is afraid of a clipboard anymore. I pour myself a glass of water and sit down on the couch. My phone buzzes with another text from Ed. Board just approved a new rule. All enforcement actions have to be reviewed by 2 board members before citations are issued. No exceptions. I smile and type back, about time. He replies, you started this. Just wanted you to know. I do not reply. I just set my phone down and turn on the TV. The neighborhood is quiet. The covenants are clear. The rules are fair. And I am home. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.